A black tourist is humiliated and thrown out by the manager of a grand luxury hotel, who said while expelling him, "This place isn't for people like you." But they don't know who he really is. Michael was a disciplined and uncompromising manager who believed in the strict maintenance of the standards he felt defined the hotel. The oceanfront facade and the interior decorated with antique pieces seemed to reinforce his vision of a place reserved for a specific, distinct clientele. Since taking on the role, he had made it clear to the staff that guests he deemed unsuitable were not welcome. His employees, aware of the austere environment he maintained, followed orders without question, fearing repercussions. Carol, the receptionist, although reluctant, obeyed the guidelines, feeling the weight of discomfort that she never dared to express. Ryan was a young black man, easygoing and quick to smile, who was in town to enjoy a vacation from work and take some time to rest and relax. The beach setting was perfect for what he desired. Quiet days away from the routine and hustle. The sunny morning seemed like an irresistible invitation, and Ryan wasted no time walking along the beach, feeling the warm sand beneath his feet and the cool sea breeze on his face. The sun's sparkle on the crystal-clear waters and the soft sound of the waves filled him with a sense of freedom and peace. With his skin glowing in the sun, Ryan took the opportunity to stroll a little further along the shore, observing the people who, like him, were enjoying the beautiful day. Children played with buckets and shovels, building sandcastles, while families laughed and took photos to capture the moment. As the afternoon wore on, Ryan realized it might be a good idea to start looking for a place to spend the night. The town was small, but surely there would be some hotels nearby. He headed to a newsstand and bought a bottle of water, taking the opportunity to chat with the vendor. "Good afternoon, my friend. Do you know where I can find a hotel to stay nearby?" The vendor, a man with a friendly smile, replied, "Sure, young man. There's a very traditional hotel right over there, just past the square. It's easy to find. The building is impressive and faces the ocean." "Great. Thanks for the tip," said Ryan, waving his hand in appreciation before following the indicated path. As he walked down the main street, he spotted the hotel in the distance. The construction was indeed eye-catching, with a classic and imposing style that conveyed a sense of tradition. Ryan approached, feeling curious to see the interior and excited about the possibility of resting in a comfortable place. Upon entering the hotel lobby, he was greeted by an elegant atmosphere. The space was decorated with antique, well-maintained furniture that seemed to blend perfectly with the building's style. Decorative plant pots adorned the corners of the hall, and the soft light coming through the large windows added a cozy touch to the environment. She examined him from head to toe with a cautious look. Ryan approached the reception with calm steps, still carrying the slight fatigue of a day spent exploring and enjoying the sea breeze. He stopped in front of the counter and, with a cordial smile, waited for Carol to notice him. "Good afternoon," Ryan said in a friendly tone. Carol, a bit surprised, quickly composed herself and responded with a slight formal smile. "Good afternoon, sir." Ryan walked up to the reception desk, where a young attendant was organizing papers with a concentrated expression. Upon noticing his presence, the receptionist, Carol, looked up, quickly assessing who was in front of her. Ryan was dressed simply, beach shorts, a cotton shirt and flip-flops. Over his shoulder, he carried a discreet backpack that showed signs of wear. For him, it was the perfect outfit for a tourist enjoying the beaches. But Carol's attentive gaze reflected some surprise. "How may I help you?" "I would like a room for tonight," Ryan replied, keeping his gaze calm. Carol's expression changed slightly. "Ah, you want a room?" She paused uncomfortably, searching for words. "I'm sorry, sir, but we're fully booked at the moment." Ryan, still serene, raised his eyebrows and glanced at the wall next to the reception, where several keys were hanging on a board. I understand, but I see there are many keys there. Are those rooms also occupied? Carol swallowed hard, unsure of how to respond. Those are keys for rooms that are already reserved for the coming days, she improvised, avoiding eye contact. For the coming days? Ryan inquired, keeping his voice light but clearly curious. So you don't have a room just for tonight? Unfortunately, sir, Carol replied, trying to maintain her composure, we can't accommodate you. All reservations have been made in advance. Ryan looked at her with a slight smile, but his expression was firm. It's strange because when I came in, I saw a couple leaving with luggage. Perhaps one of the rooms has become available now. Carol looked visibly flustered. Well, it could be. But those rooms need to be cleaned before they can be made available again. I'm very sorry, sir. Ryan tilted his head, still maintaining a gentle tone, but now a bit more incisive. What if I wait a little? I have the impression the hotel seems quiet tonight. It shouldn't take long to organize a room, right? Carol, unsure of how to respond further, composed herself and looked away. Sir, I need to call the manager. One moment, please. Ryan nodded positively with a cordial smile, while Carol stepped away for a moment, clearly flustered. Within minutes, she returned accompanied by Michael, the hotel manager, a man in an impeccable dark suit with neatly combed grey hair and a severe expression. He carried himself with a rigid posture and an expression of displeasure, making it clear he was not inclined to deal with what he considered an inconvenient situation. Good afternoon, Michael said coldly, examining Ryan from head to toe. I'm the manager. I was informed that you are looking for a room. Good afternoon, sir. That's right, Ryan replied, maintaining a cordial tone. I would like to spend the night here. Michael looked at Carol, who nervously tried to summarize the situation. He insisted, sir, even after I explained that the hotel was fully booked. Ryan politely intervened. I only asked about the keys hanging there. I thought perhaps there might be a room available. Michael shot him a severe look. Those keys don't mean the rooms are vacant. We have reservations and important commitments. Perhaps you should look for another place. I understand, Ryan said calmly, keeping his gaze fixed on the manager. But I thought it might be possible to free up a room just for tonight. The hotel seems quite calm, and I'm just an additional guest. Michael laughed, but his tone was clearly sarcastic. Sir, our hotel maintains a high standard, and I prefer to avoid inconvenient situations. I suggest you look for another place in town. Ryan kept his composure, responding directly. With all due respect, I don't see how my presence would be an inconvenience. I'm just a guest, looking for a place to rest. Michael's expression hardened even more. He looked intently at Ryan, and the tone of his voice carried a contempt he no longer bothered to hide. It's the kind of client we're used to receiving, sir. The people who frequent our hotel have specific expectations. Specific? Ryan asked with an intrigued look. I believe all guests should be welcome in any establishment that values hospitality. Michael crossed his arms, and his tone became even more incisive. Sir, I'll be more direct. Yes, we have vacancies. In fact, there are many rooms available. Ryan, surprised, tilted his head and responded calmly. Good to hear that. Then there's no reason for me not to stay here, right? Michael let out a dry laugh, looking Ryan over from head to toe. We do have vacancies, yes, but not for people like you. There was a brief silence. Ryan remained calm, but his voice sounded firm as he questioned, people like me. Michael nodded slowly, with a disdainful look. Exactly. I'll be clearer, in case you still have any doubts. Here we serve clients who know how to behave, who know how to dress, and who have an appropriate presentation. He paused, looking explicitly at Ryan's clothing. This hotel is not for people dressed so simply. Ryan took a deep breath. controlling his reaction. So, because I'm wearing casual clothes, you think I can't be a guest at this hotel? Michael took a step forward, narrowing his gaze. It's not just about the clothes. It's about the whole picture, if you understand me, he said, with a tone loaded with disdain. And to be very direct, we do not accept guests who do not have the right profile. This is not a place for just anyone. And I don't need to explain more, do I? The atmosphere became tense. Ryan watched Michael with a firm and calm look, refusing to back down. I have the impression you're not just talking about the clothes. You mean something more, Mr. Manager? Michael crossed his arms and spoke in a ruthless tone, laden with prejudice. Since you insist on asking, I'll say it clearly. We do not accept people of your color here. We do not find it appropriate. And frankly, I don't know what makes you think you would be welcome. Ryan, still maintaining his calm, took a deep breath and replied, So, the problem is the color of my skin, just to clarify. Michael merely lifted his chin, responding with a slight cynical smile. You finally understood? Yes, it's not appropriate. And if you were a bit more discreet, you could have avoided this embarrassing situation. Hearing this, Carol looked away, embarrassed and uneasy, but remained silent. Ryan observed her for a moment, sensing her discomfort before turning his attention back to Michael. I won't leave just because you asked me to, Ryan said firmly. I'm here like anyone else, and the least I expect is respect. Michael rolled his eyes and signaled for security to approach. Two strong men emerged from the corner of the lobby, assuming an intimidating stance beside Ryan. Respect? You've come to the wrong place, Michael said, giving Ryan one last contemptuous look. Please escort this gentleman outside. The security guards moved toward Ryan, ready to forcibly escort him out. Calmly, Ryan grabbed his backpack, threw one last look at Michael, and said, Thank you for making the true stance of this place clear. Then he turned and walked toward the exit, with the guards closely following him. After the incident at the hotel, Ryan headed to a small hotel nearby. There, he was well received and had a peaceful night, but his mind kept revisiting the events of that day. Michael's contempt, the harsh words, and the refusal to accommodate him for such unjust reasons replayed in his head. Even as he tried to enjoy the rest of his vacation, he couldn't shake the episode from his mind, reflecting on how many places still seemed to be steeped in prejudice. In the days that followed, Ryan tried to push away the unpleasant memories, but something inside him said he shouldn't forget what had happened completely. He finished his vacation and returned to his city with the idea that, perhaps someday, he would do something about it. Months later, on a morning like any other at the seaside hotel, Michael was surprised by the arrival of the hotel owner, who, according to him, visited the establishment once or twice a year. This time, however, the owner seemed more serious, and Michael immediately adopted a respectful posture, aware that he would need to impress him to maintain his prestige. Good morning, sir, Michael said, opening a polite smile. It's an honor to have you. Good morning, Michael. We'll have a brief meeting today, the owner replied directly. Let's go to my office. The two proceeded to the office, where the owner sat in front of Michael, assuming a firm posture. After a few moments of silence, he spoke without preamble. The hotel has been sold, Michael. Michael felt a chill run down his spine. Sold? What do you mean, sir? This hotel is one of the most traditional establishments in the area. The owner sighed and explained, Yes, and that's exactly why I received a purchase offer. A young millionaire, owner of one of the largest hotel chains in the country, insisted on acquiring this hotel. He inherited the chain from his father not long ago and is now the principal owner. He's a very successful businessman and has considerable financial power. Michael's eyes widened. Did you accept the offer? This hotel, well, it has a tradition. Why sell to someone who doesn't know it? Michael, the owner interrupted him, The offer was generous. He paid a sum far exceeding the hotel's value, and frankly, it was an offer too good to refuse. The new owner will be here personally in the coming days to check on the hotel. Michael simply nodded in shock. The news left him disturbed, but there was nothing he could do. The sale was done, and his only choice was to move forward and wait for the arrival of the new owner, who would come to inspect the hotel in a few days. Trying to regain his composure, Michael left the office and returned to the lobby, still processing the impact of that unexpected change. A few days later, Michael needed to resolve accounting matters in town and, with a somewhat anxious demeanor, approached Carol before leaving. "Carol," he began, straightening his suit with a slight nervous touch, "I need to resolve some pending matters for the hotel in accounting. Important things, you understand?" Carol nodded. "Of course, sir. Any specific instructions while you're away?" Michael looked at her seriously and replied, "Yes. If anything important happens, and I mean anything at all, call me immediately, especially if the new owner arrives while I'm gone." "Absolutely, Mr. Michael," she responded, trying to hide her apprehension. Michael gave her one last look, and before leaving added, "I hope everything is perfectly in order for his arrival. No surprises, understood?" "Understood, sir," Carol replied, nodding. Satisfied, Michael left the hotel and headed to accounting to resolve pending matters. About half an hour later, his phone rang. Upon answering, he recognized Carol's voice, which sounded more tense than usual. "Mr. Michael, the new owner is here. He just arrived and wants to speak with you." Michael felt his heart race and quickly responded, "I'm on my way. Keep him comfortable until I arrive." Hastily, he returned to the hotel, feeling tense and cautious. Upon arrival, he noticed a luxury car parked in front of the building and several security guards around. He walked into the lobby, where Carol looked nervous and anxious. "He's already in the management office," she quickly informed him. "But I have something important to tell you right now, sir. I really need to speak with you before you go in." Michael, even more impatient, replied, "Carol, I don't have time for that right now. Nothing can be more urgent than attending to the new owner. You can tell me later." And without waiting for a response, he turned and headed to the management office, leaving Carol speaking alone with a look of concern. Upon opening the door to the office, he saw a chair turned away from him where the new owner awaited. Michael closed the door, took a deep breath, and announced his presence. "Excuse me, sir," he said, trying to sound respectful. "Michael, the manager, at your service." "Close the door and sit down," replied a firm voice without hesitation. Michael obeyed, closing the door and taking his place in front of the desk. As soon as he sat down, the chair slowly turned, revealing Ryan's face, who was watching him with a cold and unwavering expression. The impact was immediate. Michael turned pale, feeling a momentary loss of breath. The same man he had insulted and expelled months earlier was now before him, but in a position of power he had never imagined. "Sir," he said, his voice faltering. Ryan stared at him intensely, without a hint of humor. "Yes, Michael, it's me. The same person you expelled from the hotel with your dirty and prejudiced words." Michael felt a cold sweat on the back of his neck, but he tried to justify himself. I was just following what I believed were the best practices to maintain the hotel's standard. I didn't know you." "Didn't know, of course," Ryan interrupted with evident disdain. "And what did you know, Michael? Did you know I wasn't up to your standard to be a guest at this hotel? That my color and my clothes made me inferior to other guests?" Michael swallowed hard. "I never meant to. It wasn't my intention." "Wasn't your intention?" Ryan repeated with a slight tone of irony. "Then explain what your intention was in humiliating me, in making it clear that someone like me was not worthy of being here. Explain, Michael." Michael looked away, unable to meet the fury contained in Ryan's eyes. I was just following the guidelines. Maybe I misinterpreted. Ryan let out a cold laugh. Michael, you looked me up and down, judged me by my appearance, by my color. You made it clear I wasn't welcome, that I didn't have the profile to be here. And guess what? Now this hotel is mine. Michael swallowed hard, feeling humiliation grow with each of Ryan's words. This kind of behavior is unacceptable anywhere, but especially in a hotel that claims to offer hospitality, Ryan continued firmly. The least that's expected of a manager is to treat all guests with dignity, regardless of their appearance. But apparently, you only know one standard of treatment, and it is exclusionary. Michael, in a desperate attempt, defended himself. Mr. Ryan, please. I've learned from my mistakes. I can redeem myself. I can prove that I can do better. Ryan interrupted him without mercy. Redeem? After humiliating guests you deemed different or unsuitable for so long? No. Today you will have a definitive lesson, Michael. You are fired, effective immediately. Michael was stunned. The words seemed to escape him. Fired? Mr. Ryan, please, I said, Michael, you are fired, Ryan insisted, his voice firm. I want you to leave this hotel now. Grab your things and go. I don't want someone like you representing a space that is now under my direction. Michael still tried to argue, almost pleading. Please, I need this job. Needing the job is no excuse for being a tyrant, Ryan replied coldly. You had your chances, and you used them to discriminate and intimidate. Now it's over. Leave. Defeated, Michael stood up, still trying to regain some dignity. He threw one last look at Ryan, but found only indifference. Without further words, he left the office, knowing that this was the end of his career at the hotel. Ryan took a deep breath, and after a few moments, went out to the lobby, where all the staff were in a mix of curiosity and apprehension. He observed the group and began to speak. I imagine you all know what happened with Michael. He is no longer part of this team. From now on, the rules of the hotel have changed. The staff, attentive, kept their eyes fixed on him as he continued. I am the new owner, and I want to make it clear that this hotel will be a place of respect and welcome for everyone. There will be no room for prejudice, discrimination, or any form of exclusion. This will be a place where anyone, regardless of color, appearance, or background, will be treated with the dignity they deserve. He looked at Carol, who gave a slight smile of relief. Ryan continued. Those who wish to be part of this new chapter will be welcome. Those who prefer to act like Michael will find the exit door open. My intention is to transform this hotel into an example of true hospitality. The team responded with a light applause, feeling that indeed a new cycle was beginning. Carol, among the staff, finally felt part of an environment where she could work with pride. And thus, under Ryan's leadership, the hotel began a new era marked by inclusion and respect, leaving behind the days of intolerance and exclusion. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next story.